Hey everybody, how's it going? Today I'm going to be building some garage ramps out of wood 2x10s to use for maintenance purposes on vehicles. What you see in front of you is pretty much all the tools you're going to need. You're going to need a saw, a screw gun, some screws, a caulk gun, some liquid nails or any type of liquid adhesive, tape measure, and a T-square and a marking pencil. You're also going to need 5 pieces of 2x10s at 8 foot long. Now they don't necessarily have to be 2x10s. They could be 2x12s if you want wider ramps. They could be 2x8s if you want a little bit of a narrower ramp. I chose 2x10 because they seem to be the perfect size to fit these trucks' tires on a ramp perfectly. They do sell plastic and metal ramps that you can use for the exact same purpose. I like the wood ramps because they are super sturdy and there's no chance that they're going to cave in. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this video of me building these ramps. So first, here's a little bit of the design that I made for the ramps in SketchUp. So with the 5 pieces of the 2x10s, you can make strategic cuts to have each piece be a bottom, a top, or a middle of the opposite piece. So like I said, you only need 5 2x10s and you will end up with 2 ramps just like this that are 7.5 inches tall and 6.5 feet long. So here's my cut list. 1 piece needs to be cut in half at 48 inches. 2 pieces need to be cut at 18 inches, and then the last 2 pieces need to be cut at 33.5 inches. This will leave you with a total of 10 pieces that you can use to assemble each ramp. So I originally wanted this to be where you would just make one single 45-degree cut on each piece, and that would be a mirrored image for each ramp. And then if you make 5 cuts, you'd have your 10 pieces, and then you just assemble each ramp with the opposite piece. I learned right away that I goofed up one of my cuts and measurements, so that didn't actually work out. So just stick to what my design says. Make straight cuts, 1 at 48, 2 at 18, and 2 at 33.5. You'll have 10 pieces that are identical then. Then you just need to go back to each piece and bevel the end. So this next sequence is a little, I guess you could call it sporadic. It's just me cutting the different pieces. The first 2 cuts I made were with the saw at a 45-degree angle, but that's, like I said, I realized I goofed up one of my cuts and a measurement, so I decided to switch back to just using straight cuts. So I cut the 3 last pieces at the appropriate straight length per my design, and then I went back and I added a 45-degree bevel on all those pieces later. So to get the 45-degree perfectly at the edge, I measured in 1.5 inches on each piece, and then I set my blade at 45 degrees and made sure I used the correct alignment mark on my saw this time, and then I just cut each piece to have that beveled edge. This method requires more cutting than I originally wanted, but it works out to be a little easier to lay out each piece with a straight cut first and then coming back and adding the bevel later on. After you're done making your bevel cuts, you'll have something resembling this, where you have 10 total pieces and 5 sets of matching lengths. As you can see on mine, some of my lengths are not correct because of my original screw-ups. I just took the saw and cut the lengths of the longer ones down with a straight cut on the non-beveled side and made each piece perfectly the same length. Overall, this probably took me about an hour and a half to get all these cuts done, including my screw-ups, so not a tremendous amount of time. This next part is where you can start assembling each ramp, and starting with the smallest piece, I just stacked them from shortest to longest and drove the screws in from the bottom side, and then used some liquid nails adhesive in between each layer just to give it some extra grip. So I attached these using 2.5-inch screws and spaced them approximately 10 to 12 inches along the perimeter of both sides. And I had those little quick clamps just on hand to align each piece to the bottom layer as I went along so that everything was nice and straight at the end. As you add the longer pieces, it's going to want to tilt on you as you're trying to screw in, so I had some scrap pieces that I stuffed underneath into each of the steps as I was screwing down the next layers to make sure it didn't wobble too much. Just make sure you orient your bevel cut the correct way when you stack all your pieces. This next part was kind of an afterthought. I had some leftover 2x2s from another project that I cut to the width of the 2x10s, and then I attached them to the very end of each ramp so that there was a wheel stop so you don't drive off the ramp. I used a little bit of liquid nails adhesive on there as well, and then some long 5.5-inch screws that I had laying around. And that's pretty much it. I tested them out with the Canyon after lining them up with the wheels, and then just slowly go up each layer, and the wheel stops at the end work great. Definitely recommend having a spotter there so they can, guide you along as you're going up the ramps. The one downfall of these ramps is they are massively heavy. I may add some handles later on to make them easier to move around. These things are super solid. I'm very pleased with them. It's going to make it a whole lot easier to get underneath the truck to change the oil. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Love it if you subscribe. Stay tuned for more videos. Later.